keyboard to the boardroom. This is the business of esports. As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner, YouGov, offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more.
From the keyboard to the border, weekly news show / post podcast live stream. I am Paul Dewalibi. I'm joined today by my friends and co-hosts Jimmy Barata and Lindsay Poss. For those of you who are new to the weekly news show, welcome, guys. What we do here is we cover all the most pressing gaming and esports topics and news of the week. We look at it through a business and C-suite lens. We dissect, we analyze the business implications of everything happening in the industry. If you're new here, this is not our usual setup. If it's your first time, welcome. The best part about this live stream stays the same, though. We get to do it live with you guys. You get to ask questions, get in our faces, challenge us, etc. We welcome you to do that. We invite you to do that. Please don't hesitate. We know hundreds of you lurk and watch the show and never say a word. So please feel free to chime in, give your 2 cents, ask a question. We are all in Las Vegas this week, so apologies for the little bit of scuffed setup. We're all doing this from our hotel rooms, off of Wi-Fi and laptop cameras. Lindsay still looks great, though, for some reason. I look like I'm
because I bring my own lighting. Everyone should travel with lighting.
This is going to look a lot better in a second once the sun goes down here.
I was going to say, it's really funny because I'm in the Bond suite in my casino. I have like this James Bond suite behind me if you're watching. Paul is all blacked out with like the skyline behind him. He looks like a Bond villain. And then at the risk of sounding a tad bit sexist, beautiful. You look like a Bond girl. You look like a Bond girl. You're just beautiful, blonde bombshell. Like, this is so on theme.
Oh, that's great.
It's true.
Thanks, Jimmy.
I do look like the blacked out, like I feel like I'm in witness protection at the moment. It's just, I'm sorry, I don't have the usual studio light. This light is horrible shadow. So as soon as that sun sets just a little bit, this is going to look a lot better. But thank you guys for putting up with a bit of the scuffed live stream this week. How is everyone doing? Jimmy, Lindsay? Even though I've seen you guys all week in Vegas.
Having a great time. Great company out here in Las Vegas, I have to say.
No, I asked this for everyone watching or listening, we've been attending the Esports Business Summit. They were foolish enough to invite me to speak. And
can I tell the story?
Sure, yeah, Jimmy, go ahead.
Since I was in the audience, as a impartial bystander, Paul was on a branding panel, and they were prompted a question as to what the purpose of media and content is, and everyone shared their opinion. About 4 other people on the panel, and then Paul's turn comes last, and he goes, "Well, you're all wrong, and here's why." So for those of you,
Jimmy, you're muted there.
Yeah, you muted yourself somehow. I don't know how that happened.
I'm on my laptop, and the trackpad is so sensitive. So I apologize. I'll try not to touch it.
Owen, I just want to read some of these. Owen says, "Hey everyone." Goyo says, "Hello." "Hey guys." "Hey Owen." "Hey Goyo." Wade says, "Hi everyone. How's the zeitgeist at the summit?" Excellent question, Wade. And Six Cannon says, "Is that a green screen?" I don't know who you're referring to, because I
Probably
feel
yours.
like
I think it's
Yeah.
you,
they all
Paul.
could
It
be.
does look like a green screen.
It's not. Yeah. No, beautiful view of the Strip and the Bellagio fountains. It just makes me look like the Bond villain that should be in Jimmy's Bond room there. Wade says, "How was the zeitgeist at the summit?" Jimmy, what would you say about the zeitgeist at the summit?
I don't even know where to start on that.
Can I just say, here's one. Let's start with this because we have like 20 topics to talk about this week, but I think it's worth a little bit of commentary on the conference. And
Yeah,
I will just preface this by saying, Jim, Jimmy, was it you who asked me? No, it wasn't you who asked me. It was someone who asked me, Paul, why do you come to these things? Like, other than to speak, right? Like, it was a compliment, right? He's basically saying, I know you're not learning anything here. And other than the obvious, like, networking, which is a big part of business, like, that's no question, there's a ton of value in the networking. For me, and there's no humility here. I always like to gauge, am I still like 2 or 3 steps ahead of where the industry is? Like, is my thinking, like, have they caught up, or am I still playing like 4D chess in a 3D world, right? Like, I want to sort of get a gauge of where things are at. And I will say, one of the frustrations is that I think literally every single panel I walked into, the crux of the conversation was authenticity, 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 right? And
That was the
you can
exact word I was going to use.
you can fill in the blank because it didn't matter what they were talking about. Somehow it all came back to authenticity. And I mean, I tried on the panel I was on to sort of address that, but to me that was like, if I'm to encapsulate, Wade, the theme of this conference, it's just all people are talking about is authenticity. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. Is that
was the exact, I was going to say authenticity. And then I've heard a little bit about, like, blockchain and NFTs and gaming, and that crossover seems to
that's true?
be one of the
That's
bigger
true.
topics. But authenticity that was truly the number one word I was going to say that I've been hearing more,
Yeah.
or the most commonly.
The 2 points I wanted to address on that. First, Paul had an awesome commentary on the importance of authority over authenticity and how a lot of people are focused, I think, on the wrong thing, which was really insightful. The other thing, though, is it's hard because you kind of want to criticize the events themselves sometimes, because perhaps the commentary, at least for us to talk about this stuff every single week for an hour and a half on the podcast and an hour and a half out on the live show with 6 or so rotating panelists, right? And it's more in depth and it's more consistent. It's easy to criticize, I think, the panels or the events as a whole for being superficial, right? Or for not really getting into it. But at the same time, what are they really expected to do with all of these people for only an hour, for once a year or a quarter, or however often they're thrown? I try and give them a little bit of slack, because what they're really trying to do is start the conversation, show other people, I think, that are authorities potentially in that space, and really allow you the opportunity as the listener to then follow up directly with that person who, like the guests on our show, make themselves literally personally available to our audience and to their audience. So I did want to say, like, my main criticism is, for what I want, it doesn't get deep enough. But at the same time, it's maybe I have unrealistic expectations, coming into the event, because again, what are they supposed to do with that limited amount of time, and with these
Right.
guests that are donating their time, apart from the businesses that they run. So yeah.
No, it's a good point.
Definitely.
Look, I'm always going to be like very self-promotional. Like, my view always is, and I was very grateful to speak at this conference, and I hope I added value, or got people thinking a bit different on the panel that I was on. But fundamentally, I always come back to, like, man, if people just watch the podcast and the live stream every week, like, it's like getting everything you could learn in this conference on a weekly basis as opposed to a yearly basis. I always feel good about the content we put out when I come to a conference like this, because I really do think we go deeper than you'll get here. But Jimmy, to your point, what these conferences are especially good for is to gauge like the overall hype and where we are in the life cycle of the industry. And there's still a lot of education that happens, right? Like we may have heard authenticity 12,000 times, but that may be relatively new content for other people. And so, it's fascinating. I will say there were a lot. It was incredibly well put on, the event. Tons of people here, like very promising from just health of the industry standpoint to see this many people excited about gaming and esports and the business side of it, obviously. Lindsay, I don't know if you had thoughts there or if you just mic making noise or.
Yeah, it fell out and it was a whole thing for a second. Anyways, we're back. No, I was actually, Paul, you keep copying the points that I'm going to say, so that's a little bit inconvenient for me.
Sorry.
Because precisely what I was going to say is that it's much easier to get into that depth and into all those topics, Jimmy, that you were talking about when you have a weekly podcast and a weekly after show. It's much easier to go deeper. I'm excited to see where these conferences kind of go I still feel like we're slowly moving out of the what is esports phase of the industry. And these types of events have been getting better, but I'm really excited to see where they're at in like maybe 2 or 3 years. I think we'll fully be out of that what is esports phase, and we won't have so many of the basic conversations that are repeated. That being said, I thought I think that the conferences that you guys have attended have been really diverse in topics that they cover, and they've tried really hard to bring in not just normal speakers, which I really appreciate. So this conference, it's been a lot of fun. Learned some things, maybe not as much as one would hope to learn at a conference, but again, these are mostly for networking anyway. And I think that the podcast in this kind of format just lends itself more to learning. So I'm glad that we get to do this as well.
I did talk to them, by the way, about doing our podcast live next year at their event. So maybe we get the best of both worlds all in one place. So that'll be fun.
That would save us from leaving early to come record in our rooms too.
That's true.
I want to say, I see in our comments, if you want to pull it up from LinkedIn, Jeff Cohen saying he was guilty about talking about authenticity.
Right as I walked in to go see his session, he brings up authenticity, and I know he did it on purpose. I know it was just to get back at me, even though I was there to show support for his panel. He had to bring up authenticity. I'll just read some of these comments. Robert says, hello. Hey, Robert. Great to have you here. Goyo says, I can't stick around for this one, but I'll be watching the VOD afterwards. Have a great show. Goyo, thank you.
Thanks, Goyo.
I'll read Robert's comment here. Authentic gaming culture and sponsorship. Metaverse offers a new paradigm shift in digital interactions, but is that not gamification of the internet in a way? It may not be authentic esports, but surely relevant and an important future focus. I mean, Robert, I don't know if I'm addressing this question directly, and I'm curious what you guys think, but it's not that I have an issue with, like, I'm not trying to say you shouldn't be authentic, right? It's just that I think the point I made was, if I told you, Robert, be authentic, like, it's so nebulous. Like, what does that mean? What do you do, right? Like, what do you then go and do? And I think it's just kind of a cheap nebulous word that people throw around. And the comment I made on my panel was, Venn was really authentic, but failed anyways, right? So it can't just be about authenticity. It can't. And there, I think the thesis I put forward, and I haven't heard anyone talk about this, so hopefully it's the first time you're hearing this, is that authority matters way more than authenticity. That if you come from a place of authority, if you're talking from a place of expertise and authority, you're far more likely to get an audience that trusts you, engages with you, listens to you, watches you, etc., and it's far more effective.
You know what that reminds me of? Actually, just came to mind for the Game of Thrones fans. There was a scene with Cersei Lannister and Peter Baelish, and he was asking, what is power? Is it money? Is it influence? And she basically had all of her knights point swords at him and then stop, turn around, and she was just like, power is power, and don't ever forget it. It kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah,
it's authority. It really is, right?
And authority is something you can actually go out and do and build and get, right? Like being authentic just always felt very nebulous to me. I was never really sure what it meant. Oath League says, I was at the ESTA conference and thought about 50% was hucksters and 50% were real esports. Sad I missed this one. It was definitely bigger than the ESTA conference. Most definitely.
I'm positive that Paul was in the hucksters category, by the way.
Yeah, definitely. I just, I want to read Owen's comments here. He says, I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but Rogue's sponsor guarantee rate will be displayed on their Rocket League team away decal and thought that was really cool. That's just my weekly RLCS thought. This is the first team to announce sponsors on their car decal. Well, this is I actually hadn't seen that story, Owen, so appreciate that. But that is cool to see deeper integration. Look, my panel was on branded content, and so I would almost put that in this bucket, this very kind of subtle integration. Oath League says, how do you define authority in esports? I'm curious what you guys think. How would you define it?
You want me, Lindsay, do you have
either of you?
First?
Yeah, you go first. I'm going to gather some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought yet. So shooting from the hip here, authority can be done in a number of ways. I think, one, longevity. It's which is a weird thing to say because it's such a new industry, but I've still met people that have worked in video gaming at large for 15 plus years, right? So when you talk about someone that works for a developer or works for an agency or whatever entry point they might be in, the fact that they've been doing it for a while, it's not the end all be all, but that's like the first check for me is, okay, so they know what they're talking about because they've been here for more than 4 or 5 years. By the way, myself here as a quasi authority, only having been in the space for 5 years. So like I said, not the end all be all, but one of the things is just that career longevity. I validate and I trust these people that came from traditional video gaming before esports branched off of it, right? They were part of that, the main, I think, fundamental part of what esports is. I think another thing in terms of esports authority is, I think it's someone that has a track record of success under their belt, right? And success means a number of different things depending on what you do. So again, whether you're working for a developer and you've put out 15 different, mobile apps or PC or, titles on Steam, whether you work for a talent agency and you represent, or have represented, even if they eventually left you, if you've represented a number of talent, because to me, succeeding is inherent, or rather goes hand in hand with failing a lot. So even if you failed in a lot of those projects, the fact that you've done them or participated in them for whatever positive or negative outcome, I think just having that experience, and again, one being years and the other really being opportunities, projects. I'm sure there's more there, and I don't want to hog the spotlight here off Lindsay if you've had time to think, but the first two that come to mind shooting from the hip are people that work for those companies where they've been here for a long time, and people that have done 100 events or have managed 50 people, you know what I mean? Or just that have just failed or succeeded so many times that they kind of, they know what they're talking about. It's not their first time around the block.
Yeah, those are definitely good points. When I think of authority, I think about intent. I think that, this does feed into the authenticity conversation for sure. But I think if you're setting out to be at the top of the industry because you want to be there, it's not necessarily going to lead you to where you want to be. Whereas if you set out wanting to make an impact on the industry because you want to see it grow, where you're more interested in kind of contributing to what's already there, contributing to the people that are already in it, that are doing good work, finding those people, uplifting those people, I think that is a better marker, or it should hopefully be a better marker of your success. I think that there's people who are definitely in it for highly, highly self-motivated and image reasons. That doesn't necessarily lend itself well to success. I felt like Venn was a little bit that way, honestly. It was like a experiment in like, oh, gamers like these 3 things, so we're going to take them all and put them into a show, and we'll just see how it works out. And we're just going to copy every trend or try to be in on every trend and all that. So I don't know, that is a different way of saying authenticity. But I think when you couple that with actually wanting to build a successful business and make sure that your employees and yourself are set, then you get something that's a little bit different. So I don't know that that's completely coherent, but essentially, like, I guess authority comes from building a smart business that aims to add to the industry rather than a play where you're just trying to make yourself look better. So I'm not sure that that completely
No, I
answers
follow
it, but I
you.
think that's part of it.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry to interrupt. I follow you. I mean, you're talking about like people that actually have achieved something that they believed in versus people that do things for the optics, right? Where it's hollow
Yeah,
and shallow.
exactly.
If I
Hmm.
followed you, no, I think that
Hmm.
fits. Yeah, I'm sorry, Paul.
And
I
I
cut
think
you off.
having
No, I was just
confidence when you come in is important. Yeah. So
I was just going to say
that's
that to
kind of
me,
that's my thought. Yeah.
authenticity is a subset of authority. Actually,
Mhm.
like if you
Yeah.
drew
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
Venn diagrams, but 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 there are tangible things in my mind, like experience, right? Like knowledge and expertise, right? There are measurable things, like and like actually measurable success, right? So these are tangible, measurable things that you can ascribe to authority. I think the intangible is more um, just how well you express yourself, how well you can communicate ideas to other people, right? How well those things are received. I think there are some intangibles, but to me, authority is so much easier to measure and achieve, right? To say, okay, Jimmy, we're going to make you the authority. Here are the steps you need to take, right? You need to gain knowledge. You need to build experience. You need to, right? We can actually create a program to say, here's how you can become an authority in a space. With esports, it's no different. And the example I gave on the panel was if you gave Tim the Tap Man a Logitech headset and told him, push this on your stream. Okay. Tim the Tap Man will go on his stream. He'll be like, oh my God, the Logitech headset's so cool. And it's totally authentic, right? And everyone will say, oh my God, that was so authentic. To me, that's less powerful, much less powerful than if you took a guy who's also a streamer or a girl, right? Who used to be a sound engineer and has owned 65 different headsets and says, hey, look, I've tried 65 of them. I studied as a sound engineer. Now I'm a gamer and a streamer. By the way, the Logitech are the best. To me, that's a much more powerful statement because that person has authority versus just the authenticity of like a Tim the Tap Man kind of activation there in that scenario. Now, Tim the Tap Man may be an authority on certain things, right? Like if you're talking about how to become a big streamer, Tim the Tap Man most definitely is an authority. And so if he was doing a course on how to become a big streamer, that's a perfect activation to me because he's the authority there. And so this is the point I make around authority trumps authenticity, or at least authenticity is a subset of something much more important like authority. So
Well, and also, I mean,
that's
you've made this point a bunch of times, but running a good business is part of that too. Like,
yeah.
it's great if you're authentic, but
it was the thesis of starting business of esports, right? Like Esports Insider, they're authentic, they're writing about gaming, but they have no authority, right? The 22-year-old journalist there has not done any business, has no experience, has no expertise, can't give you insight on business things, and so has no authority. And to me, the authority trumps the authenticity. Oath says authenticity trumps cool. Yes, Paul, 100%. I'm glad you agree, Oath. Owen says, when I think of authentic, I think of the juice. Owen, we missed the juice this week. He is stuck in an airport, hopefully in the chat still.
His ego is going to be out of control now.
Oath says, Tim wouldn't be authentic in that situation, though. He's responding to basically an ad. Well, I think a lot of people would perceive that as an authentic activation in the sense that he's a gamer, he uses a headset. If he pushes a headset, it's pretty authentic, right? He's not. And if he's using it, it makes it that much more authentic. Oath, I'm starting to think you are the juice. No?
Yeah. He's trolling us.
Jeff, is that you? All right. Let's move on to some topics this week. Actually, let me just tease super quickly. On the podcast this week, we had none other than Steven Sauls, who is the CEO of Rivalry. Rivalry is an incredibly exciting esports and sports betting company that just recently listed on the TSX Venture Exchange. And so really great conversation around esports betting, taking his company public, like a ton of insight there. Great episode, so definitely don't miss that. And young CEO of a very cool public company in a very hot space. So definitely something a lot of I learned a bunch, and that I know all of our viewers and listeners will learn a bunch from. Oath says, no, this is Patrick. I ate your pizza.
Hey, Patrick. That's a great way to be remembered.
Jeff says, Paul, you're basically poo-pooing all influencers, not just gaming. I would argue most are not authorities, but are authentic. Jeff, it depends. To me, you're an authority on certain things. It's not you're an authority, period, right? So, like, it depends. You're missing the other part of the equation.
Yeah, I also don't think Jeff's wrong, though. I also don't think Jeff's wrong. Like, but that doesn't
He's
mean
definitely wrong. I'm not poo-pooing all influencers.
Oh, I was gonna say I don't have an issue with you poo-pooing influencers. Like, they are just kind of selling products.
I mean,
They're
I would
not
argue
really
the profit of esports is an influencer in a very small vertical, right? I'm an authority in a very, very, very slim kind of the business of esports. But in the same way, there are a bunch of influencers who are authorities on certain things, right? If you talk about who's the authority on, Fortnite, I'm going to say Tfue. Who's the authority on, right there? They can be authorities in certain areas. Oath says in Chicago, I remember Oath. Jeff says juice is never wrong. And to be clear, Oath, you didn't steal my pizza. You stole Jeff and Jimmy's pizza. Just to be clear. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to some news, guys. There's just so much to get to this week. I don't even think we're going to get to it all, but there are some massive stories, like massive. And let me bring up the first one here. Hang on. Sorry, we're doing this hotel room instead of in the studio. There we go. Okay. Jeff says juice is never wrong. Jeff, you're confusing yourself with the prophet. Get me out of this airport lounge and I'll take you to school next Wednesday. Wade says juice is an authority on poo-pooing. Wade, quote of the day. Quote of the day. All right, guys, let's start with the big story here. Okay, it's Facebook. Facebook in the news this week. Facebook is planning to rebrand the company with a new name. Okay, Mark Zuckerberg wants to be known for building the metaverse. I will say there's an attached story to this, which is Facebook will hire 10,000 people in Europe to help build its metaverse. So we don't know what the new name is, just to be clear. It's not in the article. But Facebook is massively doubling down on this metaverse strategy, massively. Anyone think this is going to go horribly awry for Facebook, or is Mark Zuckerberg just a visionary once again, like and getting ahead of this way before anyone else is even really starting to think about it in a serious way?
I don't think you hire 10,000 people on a whim. So I would love to know the strategy before they decided to approve that budget for all those hires. We're massive believers in the metaverse here. I don't know if you necessarily need a rebrand for that. I kind of like the name Facebook. We were actually talking about it separately today when it was the Facebook. I don't know if you need the rebrand. I guess if you're going to completely change the fundamental under workings of the company, maybe it's due, but I don't think they're going to miss. I think they're too big to fail. Well, actually, that's not true because we see Google miss a lot. but
look, can I just stop you guys here? I think this is brilliant. It's brilliant, right? Like, you need a company with the scale and influence of a Facebook to build the metaverse, right? And look, Jimmy knows this. Most people watching don't know this. The umbrella company of the business of esports and everything else Jimmy, Lindsay, and I are doing in gaming is Holodeck Ventures, okay? And Holodeck is fundamentally what we used to call the metaverse, right? It's metaverse for people who are old like me. It's from Star Trek. It's, basically what we call the metaverse today. So it's nice to see Zuckerberg is starting to catch up to my thinking because this is, again, core part of the thesis. But putting his money where his mouth is, 10,000, Jimmy, to your point, this is the kind of scale the world is going to need to build the metaverse, right? Like, this is not going to happen from a startup, right? You need something with the scale of a Facebook, with the influence of a Facebook, with the power of a Facebook to build something that huge, that comprehensive, that like something that touches so many technologies, so many people. Plus, they already have the network, right? They have the people. Now it's just building technology around that. To me, this is genius.
Well, they also have VR and Oculus, right? And so you have the network, you have the underworkings of kind of that immersive experience. They're probably missing 2 or 3 parts that this 10,000 is designed to supplement or to fulfill. So again, you know, it's not a small like, hey, we're going to explore this area, right? This is, I wonder. I mean, did that story say how many employees Facebook already employs?
I will say this. I think
it's around 50,000.
I'm not sure, actually. I will say this. I always thought Bezos might be the first trillionaire, right? Just because of Amazon's reach and influence and just how much bigger they could get.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, I think Zuckerberg becomes the first trillionaire on the back of this. Question for you guys, though. What is the rebrand? What does Facebook end up getting called, Lindsay?
I have no idea.
People in chat, any cracks at this?
I know. I want to know the joke names too. I don't know. I immediately thought
Metabook? No.
Metabook's good. We should go copyright that.
Just go trademark every name possible.
Well, honestly, you could do a deep dive on the USPTO and on all these different, names with Meta in them. We could probably find one that's owned by a Facebook holding company. Oh, we see Greg in the chat says the new name is Horizon.
Is it, Greg? Was it announced? Because I didn't see it in this article that I had. So maybe that's news. Because this is relative.
I like all these comments. If you want to read them, honestly, they're pretty good. Faceverse.
Faceverse. Face. Zuckerland. Zuckerland is actually quite good. Zuckerverse. Actually, Zuckerverse, very clever.
I forgot. Facebook also has like a garage. What is it? That kind of like that selling portal that they use as well. And there's also a lot of companies, right, with company profiles for sales on Facebook. We're talking about all the different verticals that you need to support a true metaverse, right? And selling merchandise is a big part of that, I think.
Let me just read. I missed some comments here. Gabe says, wow, it's been so long since I've been in here. Great time because I've been so curious on this Facebook metaverse. Gabe, welcome back. Wade says, one word, Facebook phone. I don't know, Wade. I don't think we see that personally. I do agree it probably makes sense, but I don't think we see that. Matt says, Paul, did you go blonde for this episode? No, Matt, it's just the lighting. You know,
it's his aura.
He says, this lighting looks good on you, sir. Thank you, Matt. Owen says, it'd be way less sexy in 50 years to call the metaverse Facebook. I like this move purely from a consumer standpoint. I mean, there is some question mark there, right? Like, there's a lot of brand value in Facebook, in just the word. I mean, who doesn't know that word? Literally, probably every single human being on the planet has at least knows the brand. Is it a bit silly to rebrand? I don't know.
No, I think this gives them a lot more room to test things without. I don't know. When I saw this article earlier.
Lindsay, they may be rebranding the whole company, right?
Right.
And then we don't know the specifics. Like, it could be like Faceverse by Facebook or Zuckerland by Facebook. We don't know exactly how they're going to brand it.
Well, also to Owen's point, in 50 years, there's also probably not going to be books. So what is a Facebook? I don't know.
I mean, we still say hang up the phone. When's the last time anyone's hung up a phone?
So Greg says, by the way, not yet. It's a guess. So we still don't know. Jillian says, I think it's a hilarious power move to just keep it Facebook. So like announce a rebrand and then keep the same name with a different font or something. Owen says that's the name of their Oculus social media app. Is what, Horizon or Zuckerland? I don't think it's
Probably
Suckerland.
not Suckerland.
Greg says Facebook rebranded their social VR platform Horizon Worlds. Yeah, that's true. Patrick says Facebook needs to drop the name 100% as a PR move, if anything. Well, I think the fact that they didn't drop the name is getting a lot of PR, right? Like everyone's speculating, what is it going to be? I mean, we're talking about it, obviously.
I mean, doesn't this give them a chance to rebrand in a different way though? Because everyone always says, only boomers are on Facebook, blah blah blah, all that. But then we look at younger generations and they're all on Instagram, which is just Facebook. So instead, they can be like, no, they're all under the Horizon Company umbrella. I think it reminded me of Google and Alphabet. Obviously, it's an easy comparison.
Patrick
there.
mentioned that.
Yeah, it gives them a lot more room to try things, to fail at things, to see what sticks, to build up other power. I mean, they built up 3 powerful brands already in Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp under whatever this umbrella is, and people don't necessarily associate those with each other. So it'd be nice to bring those under one umbrella that's not called Facebook as well, which obviously has negative connotations with its user base or its age and stuff. So I don't know. This gives them so much room to do stuff, to play, to figure it out, to build things.
Zuckerberg copying me on all fronts again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay. I'm flattered. Imitation is the highest form of flattery. Matt says, social verse or social book, get my vote, but it'll probably be some ridiculous single word like Xeron or something meaningless.
Not a bad guess.
Right.
My vote's on Xeron. I don't know what the word means, but Greg says agreed, but I think they may take part of the name. That's true. Jeff said Google did exactly this. Their core Facebook product is declining, so they want to highlight all the other parts of the biz. It's a distraction tactic because of the PR issues they've got. I don't know about the distraction, but I think you agree with Lindsay on the first part there. Funny, when you're in the same live stream together, you don't agree, but Owen says Horizon is the name of their Oculus app. Yeah. And Patrick says exactly, boss. There you go. Agrees with Lindsay. Look, guys, it's an interesting one, Facebook. But in some ways, I'm telling you, I think this is. If Google, Apple, like if all the big tech companies, Amazon, don't do something in response, I actually think Facebook may succeed with this in a major way. Like I truly believe with 10,000 people behind an effort like this, and they have all the core components, this could be what brings about like a true metaverse, a true kind of alternate place where we live and interact and do things. And I love that they're trying it. I mean, you got to give them credit. That's a huge amount of resources to push into something. So clearly there's conviction there. Let's move on, guys. Let's talk about. I've got so much stuff to talk about here, guys. Let's talk about. Epic in the news and Valve again. I just want to put these two stories together because they are related. So the first story here is it was from Steam/Valve. Actually, let me answer this first, and then we'll go on to that. Owen says, "Could you see Apple getting in on the metaverse?" What do you guys think?
I think that there's still a lot of hardware out there to be built. Apple is just so strong in hardware. I can see that, and anything that they create, people are going to want to buy in droves. So there's a lot of opportunity there, I think. I mean, I was just listening to when the iPhone launched and how Steve Jobs presented it as 3 different devices at the time and how revolutionary it was. I don't know that I can necessarily imagine what that hardware will be, but Apple has a creative team and is so good in hardware that I'm sure there's something that I haven't thought of yet or that anyone has thought of yet that they're going to put out and people are going to buy it in droves. And that's going to kind of be their entry point. I know that they want to move into being a software business. I don't know that they'll go as hardcore as Facebook has in trying to build, the entire kind of world that we live in.
They have a lot of the same assets that Facebook has, right? When you think of iPhone users and everyone that's on iCloud, like in some ways that's the social network. They have all the access to the end user. They have hardware the same way, Facebook has hardware. They have the scale, the dollars, the resources, the people. Like to me, they have all of the elements that Facebook does, to me, there's no reason they shouldn't be competing.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of resources. I think it's a matter of company culture and what kind of like
That's a different story. You're right.
Right. And I think Apple traditionally has been more about enhancing the way we go about our day-to-day lives through inserting their hardware or their software to automate things or to just, make things better. I think culturally, if we as a society really adapt to the metaverse and lean into that, Apple, like you said, has all of everything they need to do to go in there full force. But until that, I think it needs to be a cultural shift, not just in terms of Apple's culture, but in terms of our society, because I think that's where their entry point, I think, into either entering the metaverse or continuing just to make your real life a little bit better.
Yeah. Gabe says Apple is creating a VR headset that has been in development for quite some time. And then Owen came back and said, I thought it was mixed reality. Either way, it is interesting. I don't think anyone knows for sure, right? It's all just rumors. But I think I've heard both rumors, to be very honest. So I don't know if anyone knows for sure. I've heard like a Google Glass styled product, so more mixed reality. But more recently, I did see a VR rumor that Apple was going to try and do something there. Patrick says Apple cleaning cloth. Yeah. I almost had that as a story for this week, but not enough business or gaming or esports related. Owen says, could companies like Apple sell their OS to consumers or metaverse companies, and that way they can stay the course as a software company? I mean, Owen, I really don't think Apple is a software company. I think
they want to be.
No, they want to be a services company, which they are more than anything. I would argue today, services company with some great hardware. But I don't think they would sell their OS. Their OS has always been very much a walled garden, closed ecosystem. I don't think they have any interest in putting their OS on devices that are not Apple devices, unless something drastically changes at the company. Gabe says there's an update on it that production is delayed until the end of 2022. These hardware is a tough business. It's not easy. Owen says not iOS, but an OS made specifically for metaverse hardware. Owen, I believe that's possible, but again, it would be Apple hardware. Patrick says Apple has always maintained they're a hardware company. Yeah, they say that, but I mean, if you look at where a lot of the profits are generated, it's from their services business. Gabe says Apple is far from a software company after their new M1 Pro and M1 Max chipset. Yeah, exactly. They're making their own software. Apple used to license their OS, Mac clones. Patrick, that's so long ago. Most of the people in this audience probably would never even remember that. That's definitely not the new Apple or the current Apple. All right, guys, let's move on. Let's talk about something else here. Because
talk about that Vegas skyline behind you. Look how good that looks now that it got dark out.
in about 8 minutes, you'll see the Bellagio fountains go off. So try to continue paying attention to to me or Jimmy or Lindsay speaking. All right, guys, let's talk about Steam. Steam in the news. Steam is removing NFT games from their platform. Okay, this was the headline. Valve says no thank you to crypto. I love that subheadline. And so they've updated their rules, banned games that are built on blockchain technology or allow for NFT and crypto trading. And basically, they're going to ban NFT trading games as well. They don't want any of this published on Steam. Okay. This news came out, and then almost immediately, like as if it was a response to this, there was a second news story that came out, and the headline was here, Epic says it's open to blockchain games after Steam bans them. So Epic is welcoming blockchain games.
Great move.
And Epic told The Verge that they're open to games that support crypto or blockchain-based assets, unlike its competitor Valve. When we asked about allowing games that featured NFTs, Epic told us there'd be some limitations, but that it's willing to work with early developers in the new field. I'm curious where everyone falls on this. You guys, chat, Are we team Epic? Are we team
Epic. All the way. Is there a question? This is like, I'm sorry.
I think my take's going to surprise you, but I'm curious.
I just don't think there's a question. I think it's the smartest thing Epic could have done, right? Because Epic, as we see with all these free games that you can download, put in your library, and then never use again. Well, how are we going to get around that? We're going to offer the type of game that our largest competitor is not offering. Two, I just feel like this is that situation where maybe Valve and their legal counsel or whatever it is advising them that it's too early or there's too many legalities here. Let's not get into this move, and Epic's taking the gamble. I think Epic needs a big win after that Apple lawsuit, and I think this provided them with that opportunity. Even if they fail, well, definitely not even if they fail, but there's some wiggle room there for sure in terms of how successful they are, where it doesn't have to be this out of the park kind of monster hit, just needs to be a single or a double, and I think it'll be a big victory for them.
Okay, I have a very nuanced take that is slightly contentious with what Jimmy said.
Okay.
That's such a nice way of saying
the nicest way of saying I totally disagree. You're wrong. Here's why.
I don't know. Okay, so I think from a business perspective, I definitely think that Epic is making the better decision in allowing games. And I think obviously doing the marketing thing and announcing it like this, I think that's a good move. However, the jury is still out on financial regulations and how that's and crypto regulations in general. So it is a little bit of a risk to have those on the platform. And I'm not sure that Epic wins as much as the NFT and blockchain game market loses. I don't foresee a lot of people logging out of their Steam accounts because Steam doesn't offer blockchain and NFT games. What I foresee is a lot of people not learning how to play or not learning how to interact with blockchain and NFT games because it's not available on Steam. So I guess the main thing is I don't really know that this does anything super positive for Epic other than it looks good. It's a good news story. I don't know that there's going to be a ton of users rushing to their platform. I don't know there's
Oh, good. I thought it was me.
a ton of money made.
Lindsay, we lost you for a second there.
Oh, dang it. I was doing so well at the end.
Can I ask a question, guys? Can I ask a question? And I'll ask this to chat too. I want anyone to name me one game, one blockchain game that you're just dying to go download on Epic. Okay?
Yeah.
Name me a game. Anyone.
Give it some time. There will be a few.
No. I'm making a point here. These stories prove my point exactly that what I've been saying about Epic, which is they're no longer making good business decisions. Every business decision they make is the same way my 5-year-old nephew would make decisions. Like, this is pure ego driven at this point. Like, love us, please. We're not Steam. Like, love us, please. We're going to go after the big bad guy Apple. Like, they're so desperate for love from gamers. Like, literally so desperate. They give away free gifts. They'll say anything and do anything to get a gamer's love. And it reeks of desperation. Like, okay, Steam came out and said, we're not doing this. There's nothing that says you have to make an announcement 2 seconds later. It just reeks of desperation. And fundamentally, why do people use launchers? Why? Why do you use Epic or Steam?
To play the 3 games that they like.
Okay, it's to play the games you like, but also like part of it is like it's curation, right? Show me other games I might like.
Mm-hmm.
Don't show me garbage. Don't show me things that are going to steal my money. Don't show me things that, like, part of it is curation. And this is why Epic is totally wrong in this case. They're totally out to lunch. They're losers, desperate for attention and validation right now. And it's unfortunate because I think Epic at its core is a great technology company, but the business decisions are just so sad and so desperate. I don't understand them. And what's going to happen is you're going to have the Epic Game Store just flooded with garbage, right? Like garbage out of China, blockchain nonsense, NFT nonsense, 90% of them frauds, 90% of them scams. And some kid is going to download a game. It's going to charge his dad's credit card for $1,000. And we're going to do this news story 6 weeks from now. Like, watch, the timing may be a little bit wrong, but I love Valve and Steam's view on this, which is we're going to not do it. And it didn't say we're not going to do it forever. It says we're not allowing it now. And I think there's no harm in that. It keeps it clean, simple, no chance of people being scammed, easy to curate good content, and they can always revisit it, right? Nothing's stopping Steam 2 years from now if blockchain games are blowing up to say, hey, we'll allow blockchain games on our platform. But like the rebuttal from Epic to me is just so sad. I'm like my heart, like it's like pity almost. Like you're this desperate.
I feel like you're praising, Steam for being hesitant and criticizing Epic for leaning in on, where the world is going. That's we have some interesting chat comments that I want to get into the conversation.
Just to be clear, it's not that Steam's hesitant. I think it's a smart, reasoned approach, and I think Epic's is just a knee-jerk reaction to something your competitor's doing. I don't think there was any strategic discussion at Epic, zero. Which is why, if you notice in the Epic story, right, it says we're still sort of figuring out the rules. We're not really sure what the rules are going to be. It's because they didn't think about it. It was like, oh, Steam did this, get the PR people quick, right? Like, anyways, let me catch up in these comments. Sorry, we're very, very passionate about this. Patrick says Epic is a software company. I think it's a good move for both companies. Patrick, no. This
Get off the fence, Patrick.
Epic's been beaten up. They're in the gutter. Like it's like the in the back alley, like black eye. It's just a very sad situation for them. Jillian says, I find it really interesting Steam banning blockchain and crypto when it's becoming so prevalent in the gaming industry.
Yeah, it's close-minded.
oh, sorry, guys. Let me know. What are the blockchain games you're all playing? It's so prevalent.
We'll hear them on Epic's next announcement.
Everyone in the chat, all of you guys, you're all playing. I'm the only gamer who must not be playing any blockchain games, I guess.
You're not playing any games, Paul. You work too much.
Gabe says Epic is following the hype at this point. Ego-driven, 100%. Yes, I agree. Patrick says, I thought most NFT games were on mobile anyways. Also true. Big ones in Asia anyway, sorry. Wanhi says, I'm so late. Wanhi, welcome. It's okay. Better late.
We missed your comments. Yeah.
We did. Patrick says, Epic changed the industry with Fortnite, and I think they are grasping for that next thing. Yes, agreed. But it's kind of a sad desperation grasping. I don't know. Wanhi says, I know you guys are waiting for me. Wanhi, we
sure did.
We're just starting the show right now.
Wanhi, the people to the border.
Gabe says, is Epic just constantly making poor business decisions? Could it be upper management, or are they just following trends that they think will gain them exposure? Good question, Gabe. I don't know if you guys have thoughts. I've told my thought on this multiple times. It's you have a multi-billionaire CEO who doesn't really care one way or the other in terms of the company. This is about feeding his personal ambitions and egos at this point, I think. But I don't know if you guys have other thoughts on that.
I mean, it's a lot to say that he's part of every single decision that goes on there, right? It doesn't delegate to the directors and everyone else that runs all of these different things that it takes to make Epic's wheel turn. But if you're saying that type of personality then infects the corporate culture, right, and also is evident in the types of hires and the other people, maybe or their decision making, maybe that's a thing. Again, I'm a fan of this move, so I don't have a lot to say on that. I would guess though that it's probably a combination of the two. It's not just. I don't think it's any one thing. I think there's probably some more reasons there behind that as well, if that's the route you want to take.
Much more diplomatic answer from Jimmy on that one.
Classic.
Classic. It depends.
Okay. There's the lawyer in him coming out.
Money says, thanks. Robert says, actually, I want to read this comment because it's perfect time to plug. Robert says, on the topic of reducing the gender gap in esports, it is interesting to see more beauty brands launching gaming focus I assume products, including Valkyrie's Reflect, made specifically for gamers regardless of gender. Will you all be trying it out for a future podcast, and how could it be leveraged for inclusion? Great question, Robert. And
wow, Robert, been sitting in on our meetings lately or something?
So 2 comments on this. One, that is a news story from this week. We aren't going to touch on it, but I'll tell you why. And this is the second point. Call this the unofficial announcement, because we haven't officially announced it yet. But our own Lindsay the Boss Poss will soon, very soon, be hosting her very own, call it Spin Out podcast, focused exclusively on women in esports, the issues there, the news there, the people there, the stories there. So like all the kind of the great format of the business of esports and what we do, but apply to Lindsay's area of expertise, and with great, incredible women coming on the show and planned. And so we're not ready to announce it officially yet, but it is literally weeks away, or like literally any day now, pretty much, where you will see an announcement about that. So I'm teasing it here. But Robert, if you're looking for that kind of content, it's gonna be so much more of it. Sorry, Lindsay, go ahead.
No, I was going to encourage all of our listeners to give it a shot too. We're starting with a focal point of women in gaming, but that doesn't mean that there's not lessons applicable to everyone. It's going to be a lot about mental health and mental fitness and well-being, and dealing with toxicity, dealing with imposter syndrome. The goal is to build something that everyone can listen to and enjoy. So certainly, if you're interested in those kinds of issues, give it a listen, give it a shot, and hopefully you'll love it.
You'll see, like I said, official announcements from us soon, and like a cool new brand and the whole bit. So thank you, Robert, for teeing that up.
Yes.
Because it is exciting, and you're going to get, for fans of the boss, you're going to get to see a lot more of Lindsay now without me or Jimmy or Jeff or any of us getting in the way, which I think is going to be good news for a lot of Lindsay's fans. Patrick says, all the Crypt Bros? Is that a thing?
That's great. That's great. I love that.
All the Crypt Bros are going to now jump to Epic. It's a great move because they stopped playing Fortnite when they turned 15. This is funny. Greg says, Blanco's Block Party is a great blockchain game. Greg, I'll be honest, I've heard of it, but I've never. I know there are some very popular ones like that, and Wade says Axie Infinity, like another popular one. I just have not personally played them, but I guess I should try. We should try them, Jimmy, Lindsay, right? We should get on this blockchain
I'll give
game
it a shot.
On the Epic Game Store.
On the Epic Game Store. Lindsay said she missed my comments. That means the world to me. Well, there you go, Wani. So you'll have to watch her show, Wani, because then she'll make sure not to miss any comments. Patrick says, Gabe, I agree. Tim Sweeney is hoping crypto will get him in the space race with Elon and Jeff. I mean, Patrick, he doesn't need crypto. He already has more than enough money to be in that race if he really wanted to. Greg says, why do you think Valve made their decision? I have a theory on this. It's a really good question. What do you guys think?
I don't know for sure. The thing that pops out to me, because I'm in the background of regulation, is just that they probably just don't want to deal with that right now. I don't know. Jimmy, do you have any better thoughts than that?
I think it's uncertainty and caution. We've talked, especially at this summit where we're here in Vegas, we've talked to a lot of companies in this space that are navigating and specifically retain their legal counsel because they're willing to take the task. They know the space and they're willing to fight, and they've had to let go of other counsel because it was this problem they didn't know about and didn't want to learn to solve. So I honestly, like I said, it's closed-minded. It shows a lack of innovation and a lack of a willingness to explore. So to Paul's point, they could come back and do it once they've had their time to do their due diligence or whatever it is they need to do. But I just think it was, if I was the prophet and was really like punching all my comments, I'd say it's cowardice. But because that's not me, I'll just say it's they're being very cautious.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you have to put this in some historical context. Valve has been horribly burned in the past with CS:GO, for example, around, for example, a flood of Chinese gamers cheating and things like that, and Chinese games being distributed on the app on Steam that are not legit, right? That scam people out of money. And so I think there's like some historical context where they rightly or wrongly see it as their job to try and curate to some extent what is being offered, and maybe they feel that blockchain based games are still the Wild West, rightly or wrongly, right? And
Well, sorry. Go for it.
and no, Jimmy, to your point, their approach could have been maybe a bit more courageous and said, look, we'll accept 5 or 10 of the best that we feel are the best. I just think that creates all kinds of other potential problems, because then Steam becomes a kingmaker as opposed to sort of a third party platform that is not biased in any way.
So back to the Wild West comment, right? Like, it is that, and when you're a company as big as Steam or Epic or any other game store, you rarely want to be the first to do something, right? You want to be a fast follow because you have a lot riding on whatever that decision is, and it's a massive risk. So typically when you see massive innovation like that, it comes from a much smaller company, and that is their claim to fame. It's their card, or you know what I mean? It's like it's their entry into this space, and then they get acquired, or they themselves go public, or become this massive, entity. So I hear what you're saying, and I think, and maybe I'm being too critical of them, but I do think it has something to do with perhaps their size and their tolerance for risk because of what they stand to lose, where it's not worth the gamble. I still credit Epic for getting into the space because they need a risk like that to pay off for them after all of the other troubles they've gone through.
Look, this is a bit of a rabbit hole. Can I also just say that I hate the word blockchain-based games? It's like saying, like, hey, I play a lot of loot box-based games. Like, it doesn't, like, it's a game, right? And if it's not a game, then it should not be on any store, Epic or Steam. And I think we lose sight of the fact that players, I think, fundamentally don't care what mechanisms are in the background of the game. If the game is good, they'll play it. If the game's not good, they won't. And the fact that the industry continues to push blockchain-based gaming as some separate thing is why I think short-term it will fail, right? Because if they pushed it as gaming and the blockchain-based stuff was just some feature in the background that makes it better in some way, the reception, I think, would be a lot smoother than it is today.
Yeah,
and I think sorry, go ahead, Lindsay.
I definitely don't think you're wrong. I also feel like we're in an era where a lot of things, I think it's good. I think that it's good that a lot of things are being done and built and created on the blockchain, but obviously culturally we're just a little bit behind in understanding all of that as a mass, as a whole. So yeah, throwing the word in there doesn't necessarily help the cause. But I'm so sorry, guys. I actually have to run. As much as I love hanging out with everyone and looking really great, I actually have an event to go to. But I will be back next week, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Bye.
Hi, Lindsay.
Bye.
Actually, a good time to catch up on some of these comments.
Yeah, let me catch up. Gabe says, "Look at those fountains." I told you, don't get distracted. Juan, he says, in my opinion, the best way to integrate the blockchain into the game is to get the visual asset from users and make it NFT. Profit sharing is definitely possible. Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can integrate it. It's just fundamentally, I think gamers don't care, right? It's either a fun game or it isn't, and these things are features in my mind. They're enablers of something that either makes the game more fun, easier to play, more profitable for the developer. Like it's what is the benefit? It's not like, don't sell me on the aluminum engine and the materials used. Sell me on where the car is going to get me. And I think that that whole piece of the industry has lost sight of like selling the benefit as opposed to selling the buzzword.
Like you said, it's definitely the start to a much deeper rabbit hole, but that's a great point.
Wade says, totally distracted by the fountain now. Wade, I'm sorry. Patrick says, dang, I missed the fountains. Patrick, you have to wait just like 2 more minutes. Patrick says, Wanhi, yes, and then use it across the games through the metaverse. Like I said, there are some benefits. They're just not communicated that way. Alex says, that's awesome. Congrats, Lindsay. You'll have an avid listener here.
That's sweet.
And Wade, congrats, Lindsay. Yeah. I'll listen for sure. I will communicate that to Lindsay, guys. I'm sure she will watch the rest of this. But we are excited for it. It's going to be a great, all of you know how amazing she is. It's going to be an incredible show, incredible guests. And for fans of like Business of Esports podcast, the format's going to be super familiar and a lot of fun. So Wani says, bigger you get, trying to be safer. Yeah, Jimmy, I think that was the point you made.
Right.
Owen says, Jimmy, are those gaming glasses you guys talked about on the podcast a while back? They look good.
Thanks, Owen. Yeah, these are Gamer Advantage. I just got them. Brian Reedy was on the show, episode 150, if you haven't listened to it. And these are his frames, so I'm really excited to try them out.
Yeah, they were at the conference. Actually, they had a booth, and their product's awesome. It's really good. You would be amazed how light those glasses are, and you could like literally bend them for an hour, nothing happens. They're very cool. Patrick says the games are grindy and trash. The only reason people are playing blockchain NFT right now is because they're hoping to hit the jackpot, not because they enjoy the game. That to me is a problem long term. If that's the truth, Patrick, I don't know trust your experience, but I don't know firsthand. That is the impression I get. Wanhi says, did we discuss about the name change of Facebook? Wanhi, we did. You'll have to watch the VOD after. Wanhi says, rumor on the street that it will be Faceverse. We did solicit ideas from the chat, and that one did come up. So we'll have to take bets on since we're in Vegas here what the name ends up being. All right, guys. Before we continue, just a super quick word. This live stream sponsored by YouGov. YouGov provides like the very best data, research, analytics on gamers, games, esports. They are incredible supporters of the live stream. I definitely, if you're in the business of gaming, if you're thinking of getting into gaming, if you're operating a business looking to reach the gaming audience, if you're a brand looking to reach the gaming audience, definitely go check them out. They're good people, and their analytics and data is second to none. We will have another sort of YouGov Insight segment next week, our usual one. But this week, because we're on the road, we don't, unfortunately. But I will put a link in the chat where they have a bunch of free reports that you can check out. It's yougov.com/gaming-esports. Definitely go check it out. Show them some love. And if you're in the space, operating in the space at all, it's just worth chatting with them because you never know what kind of insights they can give you that may help propel your business. So happy to make an introduction there. If anyone's watching, listening, you can reach out to me or Jimmy directly to connect you with YouGov. But go check out yougov.com/gaming-esports, and we appreciate their support of the live stream. Greg says, agree with Paul. No one really talks about Fortnite being written in C++ and using the Unreal Engine. Blockchain is a great technology, but it will not make the game more enjoyable to play. Yeah, exactly, Greg. Like total agreement. Like,
yeah, I'm glad you agree with Greg agreeing with you. This is great round.
Well, he's right. It's like no one's like, oh my god, this new exciting part of like the Java like C++ based games. Like like there's no venture funds investing in C++ based games. It's just a technology, right? That has to enable some benefit, and if the benefits aren't articulated, no one cares. I think really no one cares. All right, let's move on, Jimmy. Let's talk about. I have so much. We're not going to get to everything. Can we talk about stuff? I know there's stuff that you like in here. Netflix wanting to make a Squid Game. No, that's not that interesting.
How's that not interesting? Have you seen Squid Game?
I mean, we could do. You want to do like lightning round through the rest? We could do that.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay, so let's lightning round through the rest here. Okay, here we go. First one up is going to be this one here. Hang on. LeBron James's company receives Epic investment to bring more stuff to Fortnite. So we were on the Epic topic. It looks like LeBron's Fortnite collab from earlier in the summer won't be his last. LeBron's company Spring Hill announced it raised a round of financing to expand internationally, and one of the investors happened to be Epic Games. So Epic Games is investing in LeBron's essentially production company.
Mm-hmm.
They raised $725 million from investors that include Epic, Nike, and Fenway Sports Group.
Wow.
What do you think of this?
LeBron's the king. This is awesome. I was really excited when I saw this story. I thought, well, this had to have been part of the talks before LeBron's skin and his involvement with Fortnite ever were made public. I give him massive credit for kind of seeing that in advance and working that out as part of the deal, and also perhaps even seeing the success of his appearance in Fortnite and wanting to take it to the next level. We know LeBron's son is affiliated with FaZe Clan, and with that kind of money and those kinds of names behind you, I think, we've been talking a lot about how gaming is now the nexus of pop culture, and I think when you have companies like Nike, companies like LeBron, backed by Epic, how does that not transcend pop culture and take us, the next step further?
My only comment on this is I'm pretty sure this confirms that LeBron will be the face of the Fortnite movie in some way. Like if we think the Fortnite movie will be,
did you see Space Jam? I don't know about that.
I was gonna say, if the Fortnite movie is the next Space Jam-esque movie, LeBron's the face of it for sure.
I think honestly, just to extend the lightning round a bit, Fortnite has so many characters with custom skins, right? That I think there's going to be a lot of cameos in it. I don't know I think Jonesy is their main guy, the blonde default skin. I don't know who the voice actor for him will be, but he'll definitely be the main. And then you'll see all the other skins making appearances. I'm excited. I was a Fortnite gamer 3 years ago. I'm excited for that movie. So.
Okay, let's move on. Like we said, lightning round, right?
Yeah,
all right, let's move on to the next one. Gaming and apparel brand 100 Thieves is getting into hardware with its first acquisition. 100 Thieves is acquiring gaming peripherals company High Ground, spelled H-I Ground. High Ground, they make keyboards, I think, and I don't really know what they make, but they did a collab with Beats where they just put, I think, a different colorway on it.
Pink zebra or something.
Yeah. And so it looks like High Ground is being acquired by 100 Thieves. Well, you like this? You hate this?
I know enough already just by seeing that headline to comment on this. I think this reaffirms that 100 Thieves is a hoodie org and they're looking to push merch. One of the comments I've had with a lot of different esports, people in esports, specifically with teams, is that their biggest hurdle is that their competitors, their players are so particular about the peripherals that they want to use because maybe this company has a better mouse and this company has a better keyboard, that it's hard for them to sign sponsorships because to win, they feel like they need a mix and they can't stay loyal to any one company that wants branded exclusivity. When you see a company like 100 Thieves that is, I used to think it was a great idea, like why not? You can sell so much of it. But I was only thinking from one lens, which was the business side and how do we push as much merch as possible. If you look at these orgs that want to compete and that want to win or that want to be more than just a sales arm, then you're hamstringing the rest of your players and forcing them to kind of use and push your own product. So I'm not a big fan of this for a competitive org. It shows me that 100 Thieves is really, just pushing merch, which no disrespect to that. It's a cool play, but it's, it's not going to win titles.
Yeah, it wasn't directed at me in a like a direct way. But I think it was clearly a shot at me because I've pushed this idea of hoodie orgs probably more than anyone in the industry. And and then the comment was something like, "Well, I don't understand the negative connotation of hoodie orgs," and I thought the comment was a bit unfair because, first of all, calling something what it is not an inherently negative connotation. It's like,
Right.
look at the headline here: gaming and apparel brand. Like, this is not
Right.
Esports org 100 Thieves.
Right.
So there's definitely like some of this. Decide what you want to be in. If you want to be a gaming and apparel brand, the prophet calling you a hoodie org, don't be offended, right? Like, don't, because that's what you are and that's your business model, and fine, more power to you. And we can discuss the pros and cons of that, but don't be offended by it. To me, 100 Thieves getting into hardware is like, God, gotta be like top 5 mismanagement. Like, it just proves what I've said about 100 Thieves management. 10,000% clueless. These guys are not qualified to manage a hot dog stand, never mind an esports org. And I think great, they can sell out 200 hoodies and everyone pats them on the back. Selling hardware is really difficult because you deal with mechanical problems, returns, like shipping a big physical keyboard versus a t-shirt you can roll up and like, there's just so many other considerations. This seems like a massive distraction. If I'm an investor, they're using my cash to buy something that doesn't seem core to the brand, right? Like what happened to being media and hoodies. Now we're hardware also. Like, what's next? They're going to build 100 Thieves. They're going to buy Ford and build 100 Thieves cars. Like, it's just, it's all, they're all over the place. They don't know what they want to be. And it's management that's more concerned with their personal brand and image, I think, than building an actually good business.
I think we're in agreement. I hope it works out for them, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have a successful end of the year, and if they are raising more money, before this time next year.
Can we talk about something awesome though? That's like obviously genius. In stark contrast to 100 Thieves, Netflix wants to make a Squid Game video game.
I thought you weren't going to bring up this story. I love this.
Well, how can you not love this?
This is brilliant. It's brilliant. One, we were talking about Netflix getting into gaming and what it's going to look like. Two, pairing these games with their successful titles. This is the biggest show they've ever had. And three, we've already talked about other games like Roblox and Fortnite that have made their own Squid Game type of game modes because of the popularity of the show. So having the official one through Netflix, it's the smartest way for them to get into this space. And I love seeing this. Also, if you haven't seen the show, it's really, really good. It's really, really, really good.
Gabe says Squid Game game. That's not going to work. They're going to need something else. Sounds pretty fun, if I'm being honest. It does. I agree. That does. I feel like that. Like, to me, it's just Netflix at their best, like tying things together. It shows gaming as the other sort of anchor of entertainment. The fact that Netflix wants to turn this into a video game, leveraging their IP. It's just, it hits all the buttons of things I think we are consistently fans of. To me, the crux of this is, if it takes them 2 years, they've missed the boat.
Absolutely. This needs to come out in the next 3 months, I think, and even then shorter is better.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here. I said we were going to go quick. I have a couple more. Sorry. This one I thought was interesting because I actually met with them today, and I also think this is kind of genius. Let me just read these comments. Greg says, "Red light, green light with a PC." maybe a little less heart wrenching, but Gabe says, "I agree with Jimmy. I think by the time it comes out, the hype will be dead. As long as it's not like a year or two, I think they'll be okay. I think the hype will still be there." This is an interesting one, Jimmy. It's Wisdom Gaming and Mall of America announced first of its kind partnership to create Midwest Esports Hub. And so everyone knows Mall of America, right? I don't know if it's still the largest mall in the US, but it's definitely up there. It's probably top 3, if it's not the largest still. And so they're planning on building 18,000 square foot broadcast studio and esports venue in the mall. It'll be open in early 2022. It'll have production capabilities, the whole bit, a retail shop, a gaming lounge with food and beverage, seating for a live studio audience, etc. So they will be able to put on esports, I guess, events, tournaments, stuff like that, broadcast them, produce them all there. You like this, Jimmy?
I do. I like the thought. I want to see how it's implemented and what it looks like in person. It's hard, because I don't live in the Midwest, so I doubt I'll have the chance to walk through something like that. But we've been talking a lot. We had Jordan Sherman and Immortals on, and them talking about their interest in the Midwest space, how it's a market with, I think, just the Minnesota Rocker and nothing else out there, right? And a massive opportunity specifically in that region. And we've talked a lot about how, for esports to really succeed and gaming to succeed, you need to have more opportunities or more physical space that aren't just LAN centers where it's part of the culture, right? It's not a destination, it's part of wherever you're already going. So on paper, it sounds great, but there's a lot of room to screw it up. So let's see what they do with it.
I'll tell you what I loved about it, which is there's probably no business. Well, there's probably a lot of business, but one of the businesses or types of businesses suffering most is like traditional retail, especially malls, right? And I've continuously said since literally probably episode 1 of this podcast, when I talked about Apple taking over the GameStops in the malls, like malls have so much vacant space right now. They're all hurting.
Yeah.
I don't know why more malls are not going out and them actively seeking out things like this, capabilities like this, production facilities, esports arenas, mini LAN centers, arcade, like anything to draw in the gamer crowd to their mall is a massive win. And anything that's sort of experiential is a massive win. To me, huge missed opportunity for every mall, and kind of retail space like that is sitting with empty spaces right now. I don't get it.
I will say though, to on the other side of the fence here, just something I'm looking at is a big part of the business model of these physical spaces and these experience type, brick and mortar esports, LAN centers or what have you, is the food and beverage and the other opportunities that they're not making their money off of a $6 an hour share, And so the fact that the mall has the food court and other things where you as the business don't capture that from, depending on what these look like, there is going to be some difficulty there. But so like I said, I want to see how it's implemented.
But Jimmy, if I'm the mall, I'd be putting up all the cash to building this out myself. I wouldn't even wait for a Wisdom Gaming. Because for me, what I care about is I want the Apple store to stay there. I want the Gap to not shut down because no one's in the mall. And so how do you bring people through the mall? You need some kind of draw. And to me, that becomes the draw. I would be investing in that if I'm the mall owners and the mall operators as a way to bring people through. Like, never mind, forget about making money. It doesn't even have to make money. It has to bring people into the mall, in my opinion.
We had talked about GameStop converting all of their stores right to something like this, which we think they should have done. So maybe they'll do that after this becomes a potential success. I don't know.
It is a cool idea, and I think it's fun. Can we talk about another video game coming out?
Which game is that?
This
God.
This one probably less exciting. Lil Nas X releases free browser video game Twerk Hero. The rhythm game is a tie-in with his latest hit single, Montero. So Lil Nas X, who we talked about on last week or 2 weeks ago, doing a music video with League of Legends.
Also the 100 Thieves collab that he had done the week before that.
Now doing his own browser video game. Lil Nas X basically putting out more games than Activision Blizzard has in the last 3 years.
And more diverse too.
As a guy who has straddled music and gaming previously.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the browser game part of it, but I like seeing pop culture icons supporting our space. Fundamentally, that's a good thing. That's kind of the limit, I guess. I'm not going to play it. I'm not excited by it. I'm not a big fan of his music. I've heard a lot of his. He had that #1 chart topper for over a year. You know, all credit to him as an artist and to what he's doing in the space, like we said, with you know, with League and with 100 Thieves. I just don't know, why is it a browser game? You know, that's my criticism. Why isn't it a mobile game at least?
That's part of my frustration, but it's also like the Netflix activation. I love it, right? Seems genuine, seems like it's a good fit. Frankly, seems like it would be a fun game. This feels so cheap. This feels like just, you know, he's hot right now. He's everywhere right now. Like just one more thing on the pile, right? Along with the Little Nas X, you know, scarves and you know, baseball caps, and like, oh, I'll throw a browser-based game on there too, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's the merchandising playbook, and now gaming has been added to that.
Yeah.
And it feels a little cheap. I get it, but it's also interesting that it's now part of, I think, what is like almost like a standard celebrity merchandising mix. You need hats, you need T-shirts, now you need a browser-based game.
I'd be more excited if he announced like something a la Grand Theft Auto, you know, or even a storytelling game.
Tighter integration.
Don't put it out this year. I don't care. Develop it, but like you can announce it now, but just make it a real game and something that's authentic. No, I don't want to say that, but something that's
a tie-in with an existing good game.
Yeah,
right. There's lots of games where him and his personality and his character, like actually, like you could be something in GTA, it could be something in Fortnite, it could be right. There's a lot of places they could have put him.
Yeah.
A browser-based game feels cheap, and you know,
super exciting in 2006. You know, oh
yeah, that's true. All right, I think we covered enough this week, Jimmy. Everyone watching here, I don't know if anyone has anything else they wanted us to cover, any questions they wanted us to tackle this week. I know it's a bit of a weird week because we're all on the road. But the podcast episode tomorrow, I promise, even though the audio may not be as good as usual, the content is really good. As always, you know, we do these live streams every Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to continue to do them. They're fun because of you guys. So really appreciate everyone coming, showing up, asking questions. Even if you were just lurking, we appreciate you. Make sure to follow Business of Esports everywhere. If you're excited about like Lindsay's new show, for example, we do have a lot of fun announcements coming out in the next few months. So follow Business of Esports everywhere. I'm sure a lot of it will be announced there. So on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, even everywhere you get content, chances are you can follow us, and we put out content in all of those places. So on that note, Jimmy, thank you as always. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in this week. Don't forget to watch tomorrow's podcast episode. And as always, guys, we will see you next week.